So reflections is 6-2. A reflection, which I think Ryan said it earlier, is a mirror image, right? It's a mirror image. Did you say that? Like a mirror. Okay. So it's a mirror image of the original image. So you'll have like another shape, and then you'll make a mirror image of it, and then you'll record the new coordinates, just like when we translated. Okay? So reflection, mirror image. There's this thing called a line of reflection, and that's basically the line that the image is reflected over. Shh. Okay? So there's like this line, it's imaginary normally, unless it's a y or x axis, that the line is reflected over. Each new image and pre-image are the same distance. That's kind of important, so I underlined it. Same distance from the line. Okay, so to get that mirror image, that reflection, they have to be the same distance from that line. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to, just like we did the other day, we're just going to do examples in the book. So you don't have to draw anything in your notebooks. Okay. So the examples in the book are on page 4. No, but I said you could cut pieces of your book out and glue them into your notebook if you want. If you want to, because you could glue them on the other side. So we're going to go to 465. And we're going to do 1 through 4. So after you write that down, go to 465. One through 4. Okay, so I'm going to keep this recording so those watching at home can figure it out. You guys all have this written down? Okay, so if you have your book out, number 1, it says we have to graph, and then graph the reflection, and then find the coordinates. So it's basically the same thing we did yesterday or 2 days ago, but now we're reflecting instead of translating. Okay, so the first thing you guys want to do is triangle GHJ. Looks like that. Okay, and so we're going to graph these points. So first we have 4, 2, so go over 4, up 2, and careful because they count by 2s. And put G. And then H is 3, negative 4, so go over between 2 and 4 and down to the negative 4, and that's H. And then 1, 1 for J, so basically go halfway between 0 and 1 and halfway between 0 and 1. So that's J. Connect the dots and you should have a triangle like mine. So far so good? And they want us to reflect this over the Y. So the y-axis is our line of reflection, and so basically all you're going to do is put a dot here, right in the middle, and call that J prime. Okay? And then let's go over, this is 2 spaces and 2 spaces, so that's the G prime. And then the H is like 1.5 here, right? So then we go over 1.5 on this side, and that's H prime. So you're just counting like the same amount of spaces. Okay? And they should look like the same shape and everything. It's just a reflection. This is used a lot in art, right? Who does art in here? Yeah. Again.
I'm in my art class that I haven't.
Awesome, then you do art. Okay, now it says to write the new ones, so we have to write these ones. So we're going to write G prime. G prime is now at negative 4, positive 2. Okay, and then H prime is at negative 3, negative 4. And J prime is now at, where is it? Negative 1, 1. Okay. So just like in the translations, there's always like a shortcut to figure these out. So let's look at our original numbers. We had 4, 2, and they went to negative 4, 2. So what changed there? Just the x changed to a negative, right? The y stayed the same. Now let's look at this one. 3, negative 4. Now we have negative 3, negative 4. So again, the y stayed the same. The x went to a negative. Okay? And then this one, 1, 1, negative 1, 1. So again, the y stayed the same. The x went to a negative. So that pattern will always happen when you go over the y. There's definite patterns. Okay? Let's try and do one over the x just to see what happens there. So number 2. So let's graph triangle MNP. So M has 2, 1. We don't have numbers this time, so that's good. So that's M. N is negative 3, positive 1. And then P is negative 1, 4. So negative 1 up 4. And this one says go over the x. So that means we need to have equal space. See how this is 1 up from x? That means we have to go 1 down. So that's N prime, M prime, and this one was at, P was at 4, right? So this should be at negative 4. No, this is at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's at 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there. That's P prime. And it should be a perfect image reflection there. Does yours look like that? Good. Alright, so now we have to rewrite them. So we have M prime. So now M, basically the x stayed the same, but it dropped down in the negative down in the y, didn't it? So it's still at 2, but now it's at negative 1. You guys see that? So if you look at the original, it stayed at 2, but then the sign changed to negative. And then the N prime, we already know the negative 3 is going to stay the same, but now we have a negative 1. And then the P prime, negative 1, and then it should be negative 4, right? So when you go over the y, when you go over the y stays the same. When you go over the x stays the same. Kind of cool, huh? Alright, let's try 3. So we have a quadrilateral, so that's some sort of four-sided thing, right? W is at negative 1, 1. So again, these are counting by 2s, so it's something like right here. That's W. And then we have 4, 1 for x, so 4, 1 is right there. And then we have 4, 5, so that's 4, I guess 5 is somewhere about here, between 4 and 6. Bless you. So that's y. And then 1, 7 would be somewhere around here. That's z. This is kind of a weird shape, isn't it? Something like that. And it says we have to go over the x. And you see how this one's kind of already over the x a little bit? So this is why this is tricky. So if we have to keep it the same exact distance from the x as the other one, then we have to line it up better. So if you're going to just move this whole thing and flip it over, then you take the W, and this is where people that are good at art can get this no problem. You take the W and just put a new dot for W prime right there. Okay? And then you take the X, right? And you put it right here, X prime. And then the Y is in the third box halfway through, but now it's down here. And the Z is in the fourth box, kind of in the middle right here. And these are all primes. So now when I connect my dots, they're going to overlap, aren't they? Raise your hand if it's easy for you to do this. Raise your hand if it's hard because you're like, what? It's messy. Anyone? Okay. It's okay. So when we rewrite these points, so we're going to start with W prime. We went -1, +1. I'll move it up. -1, +1. So the x's stayed the same again, right? We're reflecting over the x. But the sign changed. We went from a negative to a positive on the y. Okay? So now we have a x prime. X should be the same if we check. Yep, still the same. But now it's a -1. And then we have y. The x should be the same, but now we have a -5. And the z prime 1 and -7. So I think we're going to skip 4 just for time. But if you look at 4, it's going over the y. So what will stay the same here, the x or the y? The y. And the x will change signs. Okay? Any questions? Okay, I'm going to pass out a worksheet. We're going to do a little more practice.